just last week, we were here at the Leave telling you about how the House approved a bill to block any state-level mandatory genetically modified organism labeling. Well, there was very little lobbying done protecting the consumer rights before this, and that's the trend from health-conscious outlets and companies not getting involved. And that could lead to more losses on labeling, as well as watered-down federal dietary recommendations and school lunch requirements, because they all benefit the big food. Let's call them the big food. I'm talking about General Mills, about Mars, about these humongous companies that benefit from GMO.
They make all this crap behind you.
All that crap that benefits from GMO, not being labeled, that they benefit from hefty farming subsidies, and they are pushing processed junk food into the food supply of this country.
Right.
On the other hand, we have, let's call them the good food companies, Whole Foods, Chipotle, Applegate, all these companies that are trying to push organic food into the market and organic farming and sustainable practices. But they are making a big splash in the marketplace. They're able to communicate to consumers the importance of eating the right food and to growing the food the right way. But they're not getting involved in Capitol Hill. And they're losing the battle, because now we see that the amount of money that these big food companies are putting to lobby to get laws that benefit them is taken away from the possibility that these revolutionary companies actually make a difference.
I mean, we're talking about David and Goliath here. Monsanto is one of the largest lobbying presence on Capitol Hill. They're bioterrorists, along with other companies like them. In my opinion, General Mills is one of them. They have such a major control, and we're one of the few Western countries in the world that doesn't require food labeling of GMOs. I mean, that's just absurd if you think about it. They have so much pull and so much power. We're talking about 5% of the market in terms of food is actually certified organic. Gallup did a poll recently that said 45% of Americans are actively looking for organic products. And so there's this major need, and there isn't the offset of percentages of food so that people can choose. Also, there isn't that labeling is so critical here, because people, when they're informed and can make these decisions on their own, will see these companies start to lose their power.
I mean, and that's what they're saying. They're saying we have these companies. Let's take Applegate, for example, $800 million worth. And still, they don't hire any lobbyists to go into Washington and try to, direct legislation in a way that helps other organic farmers to grow. Instead, we do have the big food agenda spending up to $40 million a year, making sure that the Congress continues that revolving door in between Monsanto and the Department of Agriculture, that revolving door in between the lobbyists and the board members of these big food companies that benefit.
They're receiving the tax subsidies. Forgive me for cutting you off. I have such a passion about this issue. They're receiving these subsidies, which allows them to make this food cheaply, which in turn, that completes the cycle for them. Round and round it goes. You're absolutely right.
Because then it makes organic food expensive, and then it makes sure that organic farmers do not qualify for these subsidies, making organic food more expensive and less accessible. Right now, organic food, the sector accounts for about 5% of the total food production in the country. It's a small number, but it's growing in double digits every year. People are invested in eating better, but these big companies won't give us a break. This is really, really hard. All throughout the Obama administration, that is being eager to impose more restrictions on GMO, to open up the market. Well, what happened? The lobbyists from Big Food double up the investment from the last presidency. Both Clinton and Bush, those both, they didn't have to spend that much. Obama came in. Michelle Obama also was a very influential force in creating awareness on this issue, but then they doubled down on money, and the non-GMO companies, these organic farmers, although they do have the money, they decide to work this idea of, let's create a voter sentiment, because voter sentiment is what drives politicians. Well, let me tell you something, that has been wiped from this country a long time ago. Money moves politicians in this country. Lobbying moves politicians in this country, and the proof is how much money they spend. If we contrast the good food sector, they only spent less than $1 million last year versus 39 that the big food did.
I'm with you, Jose, but also we need to point out this is not a Democrat or Republican issue. Both parties take money from big foods like Monsanto equally. You look at across the party aisle, both of them are doing it. It's not a single party issue going on here. Big food is in both camps.
Exactly, and that's another example that they use is how these GMO legislation passes through the houses like a knife on butter. There's no stop whatsoever. There's no checks and balances. Let them go. Let them make money. Poisoning the food, the food supply of this country. But we need to make sure that our vote goes to politicians that are doing work preventing this. And still, it makes me feel a little sad. I don't think it's enough, but we're seeing people like the Ben & Jerry founders from Vermont going out and supporting Bernie Sanders publicly and endorsing him. So we see that, some of these companies, they want to get into this new political bandwagon and maybe do the change from within. We'll see. Yeah. Well, we want to know how you feel about this situation. Do you buy organic? Do you feel this is expensive? And do you blame big food for this? Let us know, and please subscribe to LibTV2.